Here we are, just beyond the Jordan, about to cross into the Promised Land. For 40 years, Moses led our journey, his leadership shortly coming to a close. He will not be joining us on the other side. We will create new leadership with our God. We will create a new society based on the lessons that we gleaned in the desert. This Torah portion, Re'eh, begins with these words. Re'eh anochi noten lefanechem hayom bracha uklala. See, this day I set before you blessing and curse. A blessing if you obey the commandments of your God, or a curse if you do not obey the commandments of the eternal your God and turn away from my path. Pretty straightforward. And for further clarity, Moses outlines the path we're meant to stay with in order to bring blessings upon ourselves, rulings around ritual, moral, civil, criminal, and social laws, discussions of false prophets, rituals around our holy days. Each of these sections outlined in Parashat Re'eh is filled with rich decrees that are meant to guide us on a righteous path, leading us knowing that we are walking into an unknown. We are given a mechanism, a way of life to keep us focused on our values so we don't stray or deviate from goodness and fall into chaos. In chapter 12, we are told, Ki im el hamakom asher yivchar Adonai Elohechem mikol shivtechem lasum et shmo sham ulavo shama. Look only at this site that your God Adonai will choose amidst all your tribes as God's habitation to establish the divine name there. There you will go, you will bring your offerings. Together with your households, you shall feast before your God, happy in all the undertakings in which God has blessed you. We are navigated to a specific place in which we are meant to gather, to dwell. And this description of a place, makom, is not only about a physical place, a location, but rather an idea. The notion of gathering and being as one. A place of understanding among our people where we set aside differences and find ways to build together based on our commonality. And this verse has never been more important than it is today. Our offerings may not look the same, but the mindset of gathering as a union and convening with one another is integral to who we are as Jews and how we need to further strengthen ourselves in that place. It is a timeless commitment. Much of the book of Deuteronomy is Moses' final words to the Israelites before he dies. He warns them that they can easily stray away from their faith, away from their community, and get lured into temptations that will pull them away from their people, away from their practice, into darkness. And I know that today, many of us are feeling like our people are in darkness. Many of our young people in this community and all over the country are gearing up to go back to their college campuses. For many, this experience is riddled with anxiety. Instead of focusing on classes, dating, and dare I say, underage drinking, many of our children are wondering how safe will they be on their college campus, wondering what anti-Semitic remarks await them while attempting just to go to class, fearing violence against them or their friend groups, and the anticipation for them is palpable. Author Dara Horn shared her concerns related to Jewish hatred on college campuses. She addresses the perplexing questions: how can there be so much Jewish hatred among the world's smartest people? She argues that our era of 10-second news cycle is no match for these questions because the answers are deep and ancient, buried beneath the oldest assumptions. She reminds us that a steadfast consistency of anti-Semitism for thousands of years has been the denial of truth, and the promotion of lies. These lies range in scope from conspiracy theories to Holocaust denials, to the blood libel, to the currently popular claims that Zionism is racism, that Jews are settler colonialists, and that Jewish civilization isn't indigenous to the land of Israel. These lies are all part of the foundational big lie that anti-Semitism itself is an act of righteous resistance against evil, because Jews are collectively evil and have no right to exist. And today she shakes us into reality that the big lie is winning. In recent years, Jews have been programmed to say that we are all critical of Israel, especially this government, to show that we can be unbiased and analytical. And justified criticism set aside for a moment, why is our starting point of connection with others a criticism of our own people or Israel? Why don't our conversations with others start with a discussion of collective peace, of dreaming of a possibility that there can be a wholeness in the region? Why do we have to begin so many conversations with justification of our existence and be critical of Israel just to fit in? This young country of only 75 years has its problems and deficiencies like any other country, including our very own. And yet we feel like we must go above and beyond in judgment to justify what goes beyond reproach in order to be accepted or validated by those who don't even bother to learn Jewish or Israeli history in the least. Full disclosure, when the protest movement was in full gear last summer, resisting change in Israel's Supreme Courts, I took to the streets in Tel Aviv with my family on multiple occasions, fighting for the rights of women, Reform Jews, Arabs, and more, and was joined by thousands who walked alongside me, including our Christian and Muslim brothers and sisters. But why does my opinion bear more importance because I was protesting the government? As a matter of fact, I protested the government because of my deep love for Israel and desire for her to thrive and be her best. Dara Horn points out that this has become the price of admission to public discourse about our own demonization in debates, while people who are often unable to name the relevant river or sea. How did we get here? Well, that's a much longer sermon, and I know that you all want to get to dinner at some point this evening. So I will just share some ideas of where we should go from here. To put it simply, the first thing we must do is to double down on our Judaism. If you've only attended one service a month for the last decade, start coming to two. If you've never attended a class about Israel, our faith, Torah, start showing up. If you've never hosted a Shabbat dinner, open your homes to other Jews in our community and those of other faiths to introduce them to our values while dispelling lies about our traditions. Speak up when something makes your stomach churn. That Holocaust joke, the stereotype about the big noses or small pockets is never funny. There is no room for misunderstandings these days. When DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives show up at your workplace, be sure that Jewish hatred is part of the conversation. We are a minority facing hatred every day. We do not share one story. We are not all white, and we must remind people that we come in all shapes and sizes, and our narrative is vast. I know that when I tell people that I am an Arab Jew, they sometimes look perplexed because people forget that we were banished from so many Arab countries, but still hold our Arab roots close to our hearts. As many of you know, I am a Moroccan-Tunisian Jew. I didn't know gefilte fish was a real thing until I was about 22 years old. My food is spicy, brown, and saucy, but I digress. The DEI movement is meant to include all of those whose voices are buried. And Dadoun sadly warns us that diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives have often, but not always, proved to be no match for anti-Semitism for one clear reason. The durable idea of anti-Semitism is justice. The idea that money erases bigotry apparently applies only to Jewish people. Again and again, the ostensible reasons for not addressing anti-Semitism in DEI initiatives quickly reveal themselves to be founded on ancient, rarely examined assumptions about Jews as invulnerable villains. We, every single one of us here and virtually who are joining us from close and afar, are part of this conversation among our friends, work colleagues, the institutions where we spend time, so the next generation has a fighting chance to experience living without fear. As a graduate of Harvard and advisor to the Anti-Semitism Committee, Dadoun was invited to convene with Harvard leadership after October 7th. At a Shabbat dinner she attended at one of the colleges, students went around the table sharing what they wished they could say to their non-Jewish friends. I wish I could say I want to spend a semester in Israel. I wish I could say I work at a Jewish preschool. I wish I could say I volunteered at a Jewish hospital. She says, I sat at the table stupefied. They were in hiding. In a separate incident, one student claimed that a different professor asked her to leave his classroom in the spring of 2023 after learning that she was Israeli, because her Israeli-ness made people uncomfortable. An astonishing number of pop-up lectures, panels, and events at Harvard, both before and after October 7th, were centered on the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza, a very worthy topic, but addressed with almost no mention of Hamas, even though Hamas has ruled Gaza for the last 17 years. Students have had many opportunities to learn about Palestinian suffering from oppression by evil Jews, but far fewer opportunities to learn, for instance, about Hamas's success in co-opting foreign aid, crushing dissent, or the intifada that students hoped to globalize. In 33 days, we will hear the sound of the shofar. The shofar is meant to awaken us from our slumber, from the mundane of our everyday, and stir us up on the inside. We are meant to feel uncomfortable, and from there, set roots for change. I turn back for a moment to the words from chapter 12, Hamakom asher ivchar. We gather in a place where God will dwell. We are the creators of that place. We must bring change that we seek to have, and no one can be exempt from this work. We must return to a model of civil discourse based on real information and drive away the lies that people have held onto for centuries. Our place of common language with others cannot be on a fixed conversation around Jewish or Israeli wrongdoing, but from a place of truth-seeking. We must welcome people of all faiths into our dwelling so they know who we are and can speak about Judaism from a place of experience, not false hearsay. Let us go back to a time where we don't have to justify our existence. We are a strong minority. So what does this look like? I'm happy to share a few short examples. The first, which has been in the making before October 7th at the University of Austin, UATX. They raised over $250 million to build what they are calling a university startup, where a group of hand-selected undergraduate students will learn to become critical thinkers, have knowledge creation and transmission of knowledge. According to the president of UATX, Professor Pano Canelos, the pursuit of knowledge has not been prioritized, and some schools have generated ideological positions that have generated the kind of hate we're seeing on university campuses today. And so far, he shares, there is a very significant number of Jewish students and faculty applying to be part of this new initiative. We need to see and invest in more places of higher learning with exchange of ideas, not ideologies that promote one thought for all. We need to teach people, not just college students, how to bring back civil discourse rather than finding reasons to cancel people out. Another example is fashioned by a graduate of Tulane University who experienced enormous anti-Semitism last year, Yasmin Ohev Shalom. She and some of her classmates testified before Congress last February, as I'm sure you all recall. This brilliant young woman of Persian Jewish descent has begun working on an app called Camp Us, where students can learn of Jewish and Israel-related events to attend and feel safe. This app will help students report harassment around Jewish hatred and Israel-related abuses. And they are using AI to generate safe havens on campus that will support Jewish students and their allies. Very own Mishkan Or member Marnie Katz-Shankman, who has 2 children at Gannon Gill, fights misinformation at every opportunity. In addition to raising her 2 little ones, she works as a board-certified behavioral analyst. In and out of work, she constantly engages in deep discussion with people who have been flooded with misinformation or have been misguided about Judaism and Israel. She admits that some of her conversations have been painful, but continues to combat anti-Semitism whenever she can. She acknowledges that it's difficult, but feels it is her way of driving out hatred. Moreover, when she comes across misguided posts on social media, she will reach out to influencers and ask them to make emendations or corrections to their claims. And if they represent a certain organization, she will even read the mission statement of that association and call out CEOs for having anti-Semitism linked with their organization. Marnie has many such examples of this, and her courage is enormously inspiring. Chapter 12 says, "V'ahavtem shama et trumat yadeichem," and you will bring your offerings and other sacrifices, your contributions, your tithes, your offering, your free will offering. We each bring something unique to the table. We share in this offering, in our giving to the community. Each one of us plays an integral role in supporting the work of bringing shalom, of bringing peace, a sense of wholeness to the world. What will you do starting today? Shabbat shalom.